Hi, everyone. Abby Lorden here, the Vice President and Publisher of Hospitality Technology, and I'm thrilled to have with me today Scott Strickland, who is the EVP and CIO for Wyndham Hotels and Resorts. Scott, thanks so much for chatting today.
Thank you so much for having me, Abby.
Yeah, absolutely. Scott, I think what I'm really excited to spend a few minutes chatting with you about is how such a large and significant organization such as Wyndham has walked through the last 8 months, as many of us in the industry have, and that there have been some real bright spots of learning that have come through this process that I think as we move forward become lessons in how to innovate and bring some inspiration at a time when the industry really needs it. And in chatting with you, I'm really excited to share some of the ways that Wyndham has brought innovation and inspiration to what it's doing and what some of the lessons have been as you've gone through the last 6 to 8 months as the rest of us have. So with that, we're going to dig right in. I think the first area that we want to cover is just thinking about the decision-making process, right? And how so quickly and rapidly that was changed to be something focused on behaving in a much more flexible and nimble way. Can you speak to that a little bit, Scott?
Certainly, Abby, and thank you for framing it up. As we faced into the crisis, it was really difficult. And like most people in hospitality and most companies in hospitality, we had to make some very, very tough decisions, and we lost a large number of team members and consultants as part of that. Coming out of it, we realized we couldn't act the way, and we just didn't have the infrastructure to support some of the decision-making in the way we used to. So we said, okay, we need to act a little bit more like a startup, because what it comes down to basically is how much money are we bringing in and how much are we spending, and ensuring that we're continuing to deliver value as an IT organization in that new environment. So we said, okay, we need to be faster. Let's take a look at our project management methodology. Let's take a look at some of the ways we are making these decisions and adjust it. So an example of that is around our requirements gathering. Whereas before we'd have an extended requirements gathering and then a formal document and then a sign off. Now it was requirements gathering, rapid discussion on, yep, this looks like the right approach. Let's move forward and prototype something. We took something that normally might have taken us 2 months and brought it down into about 2 weeks with a half to a quarter of the resources that we used to have there. We also looked at it from an outcome basis. What are we trying to achieve? What are we actually trying to deliver here? And let's all stay focused on that. Obviously, it needs to be secure, it needs to be scalable, it needs to be the right solution, but what are we trying to do? And how do we boil it down to its bare minimum to make it work for our franchisees and guests? We also became a lot less formal, Abby. We started to have evening meetings. I'd engage with my CMO or my CFO at 6 p.m. They'd give me a quick call while either one of us were preparing dinner and say, here's what I'm thinking for tomorrow. How about you? Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking too. Great. Whereas before, that would have taken us setting up a formal meeting and bringing our teams together and sitting down and actually talking it through. So again, acting a lot more like that startup.
Mm-hmm. I love that idea, that example of thinking like a startup. Is this something that from a learnings perspective, behavior, do you see this being something that you adopt more as you move forward and you encourage your teams to adopt as well?
Absolutely. We've made some changes to our project management methodology, our way of thinking, even the way that we're structured, that even as we come out of the crisis, we're going to keep. So those will become part of what IT at Wyndham is from an ongoing basis.
Yeah, so this idea of being flexible, nimble, and thinking like a startup has been, I think we would call this point one for everybody who's listening today, around some very meaningful and potent learnings that we can take away from this. The next area that I want to talk a little bit about is how you've changed your communications with some of the key stakeholders, franchisees and owners and the teams that they support in particular, right? Because they're certainly all going through the same set of circumstances, and in many cases, even more challenging circumstances. And I think you have some great examples there. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Sure. If we take a look at what we as a corporation were facing into in March, April, May, June, our franchisees owners had it in one way even worse, because this is their life savings, their life dream, and they and their family may have been all working in this single hotel. So we realized we needed to change the way we were supporting them. We needed to talk to them more, talk to them less formally. Something that we've adopted is just Zoom calls with them. Let's get 20 or 30 franchisees together and let's talk about what are their current priorities, what's going on for them. So opening up that communication channel. Another one is a lot of these owners now had to take on day-to-day responsibilities that perhaps before they had a front desk agent or even a general manager or an AGM in there handling for them. That meant a different way of communication. That meant, frankly, some more support calls that we weren't accustomed to getting because these people were now on the system checking people in, for example, that they hadn't been in the past. Great. Let's let them communicate to us in a different way. Let's not mandate that they have to call support. Let's allow them to chat. Let's all engage in chat. Let's do SMS texting. Let's have these Zoom calls. And then sure, if we need to have a voice call, we can have a voice call as well. So we looked at it in how do we communicate with everybody on a channel that they're most comfortable with? And of course, that'll vary by age as well. Some of the quote unquote older owners, they still like calling us. Some of the more millennial focused owners, they love the chat feature and the ability to text back and forth. Another example there is we looked at some of their needs were changing. Somebody may have had a housekeeper who'd been doing the same role for 20 years. And now we were asking that housekeeper to wipe a doorknob or to leave a cleaning agent behind or hand gel behind that they just simply weren't accustomed to doing. So how do we support somebody in that position? Okay, let's give them a checklist. Let's give them a mobile enabled checklist that works on any device, Android, iOS, BYOD, don't care. Whatever the housekeeper happens to have in his or her hand, here's the checklist that'll remind them, here's the new cleaning protocols. So you can count on us at Wyndham to have followed those protocols, and we'll let you know that when you check in.
Yeah, and I think what's so meaningful about that too is that this idea of how you're supporting and communicating with the franchisees and the owners, you really sort of adopted this flexibility, this nimbleness, and this focus on unraveling the complexity that you talked about as in your own process and project management, decision making, right? Prioritizing projects. You then took that same key objective and started to deliver that to how you interact with owners and key stakeholders.
We definitely have. There's a common theme there, Abby, yes, for both the way we acted internally and the way we started to engage even better with our owners and franchisee community.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So I think the third key point that you shared I'm really excited about is this idea of identifying who is traveling and then how to better serve them. And you have some really great examples there. I'd love to have you speak to that a little bit.
Absolutely. So if we take a look at the two types of travelers that were traveling in the pandemic and are traveling now, we're recording this at the end of October, early November. It breaks down to an everyday business traveler and a leisure guest who's traveling in a different way than perhaps they did before. So let's take those in turn. Our everyday business traveler, or as we call them, the boots and beds. The boots and beds are the folks who are out there supporting an infrastructure, a logistics project, a trucking project, or they're actual truckers themselves. Okay, what are their needs in this pandemic? One of them is, hey, they want to have contact with as few people as possible. So we rolled out a new mobile app during this time frame. Rolled out our new mobile app. It started in September, and we continue to add functionality. We're going to be enabling contactless payments in the next quarter or so across our economy hotels. That's a feature that normally you wouldn't provide at an economy hotel. That's a high-end feature. Apple Pay, Google Wallet, those sorts of things. That's a high end. We're also providing something called Instant Book. So this is for that everyday business traveler who's on the road, not sure necessarily where they're going to land that day. It could be 10 miles down the highway, it could be 20, but this is probably it. They can make an instant booking on their phone, no credit card required, just their mobile number for us, and have a guaranteed room when they check in. That's never been done before, except for our brand that we acquired with La Quinta. So offering people that flexibility, recognizing the way they're traveling today is they're not flying, they're driving. And they may be taking this exit, or they may be taking an exit a couple down, but they need the ability right now to make their reservation.
And that instant book capability doesn't require payment at the time of booking, correct?
That's correct. That's one of the beauties of it. We will send you a couple SMS text messages reminding you that you've made this booking, and then we'll cancel it without an impact by 11 or 11:30 p.m. that night.
Yeah.
So,
Can you speak to the technology a little bit about how you're enabling that?
So that's built on our new mobile app. And the beauty of Instant Book is it's fully integrated in with our property management systems. So it also provides alerts on the property management systems, reminding people that they have a couple instant book reservations coming. It's fully integrated in with our central reservation system as well, so that we're decrementing and adjusting inventory as required. And it uses a lot of the native APIs inherent in your phone. So what that means, translated, that means that you can log into it with just your thumbprint or with your face recognition. You don't have to remember your member ID or a number or an email address or something of that nature. We're really, really excited about that because we built that platform now and we'll be able to leverage it in the future. We've made that investment throughout the downturn.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, Scott. And what stands out about these three examples, right? This idea of being flexible and nimble, right? Removing complexity in the decision-making process. And then from there, improving communications with franchisees and owners and bringing them the same ability to be flexible and nimble and responsive. And then the third piece around identifying who's traveling now and how can you best serve those. Those are three significant priorities for the business that are long-term behaviors that I think will only continue to help make better decisions, faster decisions, and smarter decisions for an organization that's gone through so much significant change as we all have in the last several months.
Well said, Abby. The investments we've made over the past 9 months will continue to serve us as we come out of the crisis. And as we build out our budget for 21, we're building on those investments. We're doubling down on a lot of that and saying these changes that we've made are part of the new culture that we want to have moving forward.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Well, Scott, I really appreciate you giving us a few minutes today and sharing some inspiration around innovation and what we can learn and thinking about the future. Appreciated having a chance to catch up with you. And ladies and gentlemen, excited for our next segment here at HT Next. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Abby. It's a pleasure being here.